Hey moms, welcome back to Momestly, and in today's video we wanted to tell you Happy Roald Dahl Day!
So Roald Dahl is an author of all of these amazing books that we probably most of us read into our childhood. We actually each have this book set that we are reading to our children. Well, some of them are really big books, but for our littles. But Costco, if you have one, maybe you can look them up. It may still have them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because otherwise this set is like kind of expensive.
It's kind of expensive. You can't find it there. But anyways, this day is celebrated on September 13th every year. So that'll be tomorrow, but that's okay. We're here for you today. And it's celebrated on September 13th because Roald Dahl was born September 13th in 1916. He was born to a Norwegian father and a French mother. He was named after a Norwegian polar explorer, Roald Amundsen. Amundsen? You decide. Who also has a really interesting story. You should look that up on your... you should look that up.
She's going to say on your own fucking time.
I was, but not, Anyways, here we are. This is my cheat sheet, by the way. In case you're wondering what I'm looking at over here. He's British. He was an author, poet, and screenwriter. He also fought in World War II. He was a fighter pilot. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the website. That this holiday is celebrated every year on the anniversary of Roald Dahl's birthday. The unofficial holiday celebrates all the characters created by the much-loved and read children's author whose most popular books included Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, and the Fantastic Mr. Fox. Fun fact about Matilda, that's what they called me in elementary school. I told people I would turn them into frogs.
It's still funny, I'm sorry.
It's funny as an adult. It was traumatizing as a
But
child.
I can see that. I mean, I always got called Angelica. And you know how rude that is to call somebody, at least you were named after somebody with magic powers. Like, I was named after the bitch from the Rugrats. And that's not even my name. Anyway.
So, he was considered one of the most widely read and influential British writers of all time. And he is primarily known for his fantasy fiction stories for children. He also wrote screenplays for films and television shows, including the screenplay for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which we love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is a good one. If you've never seen the movie, please do.
Watch it. Yep, it's good.
Such a good movie. Let's see. Also, his stories have sold over 250 million copies. Which is impressive. It's a lot of books. All right. This is the interesting side of the page.
Per mic.
Per mic. This is not my murder handwriting here.
Murder handwriting? He didn't cut out pieces of newspaper and glue it on there.
I guess that's true. But I mean, look at this.
He tried to make it so you could read it.
He did.
Rude ass.
Well... anyways, a couple of fun facts, and then we're going to tell you about our favorite stories. So one of these is really interesting. So first of all, he was not a fan of authoritarian adults. He did not do well with adults putting children down, being mean to children.
Abusive. Well, what we would consider abusive. It wasn't abusive then, but
he did not do well with that at all. So, which knowing that, it makes a lot of the stuff he wrote
Yeah.
about make sense.
Yeah, so we actually didn't know very much about him.
Which is
Full
why we
disclosure.
have this note page from Mike.
Yeah, so we like so many of these stories. We grew up with so many of them, and up until I was a lot older, I didn't actually know they came from books. I didn't know that Matilda was a book. I just knew the movie. James and the Giant Peach,
Yep.
the same thing. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like I didn't know that, and so then Melinda we were on the phone one day and she was telling me about all these book sets, and she was telling me all the sets, and I was like, those were all written by the same person? Like I had no idea. So we both have a set, like she mentioned, and then I started reading some of them to Oliver. We've been through 2 of them, and then we started, I think, 2 others. But anyway, we did have to like look stuff up. Mike had to look some stuff up for us because we never looked into him, and he's very interesting.
He is very interesting. So one of the examples of his anti-authority mentality as a child was the Great Mouse Plot of 1924. This is when he and a friend pranked a candy store owner by putting a dead mouse in the gobstopper jar due to the grudge that he had with the mean and loathsome owner, Mrs. Pratchett. I mean, it's a pretty bad name. Like, she sounds like a bitch.
It's true. Sorry if you Pratchett and you watching this.
I'm so sorry if that's your last name. Like, nothing personal. But, like, that's hilarious, though. Which, apparently, that's also where where he thought about Everlasting Gobstopper. Yeah.
For Charlie and the
Chocolate Factory. Which was inspired because he wanted to be an inventor at Cadbury Chocolate as a child. Which, if you don't know, Cadbury Chocolate it's a European chocolate company. We have the Cadbury eggs and things here.
They have much better stuff there.
Oh my gosh. If you've never had Cadbury chocolate bars like there or Cadbury drinking chocolate, it is so yummy.
It's all really good.
It is like
my mother-in-law is from Ireland, and she always gets us, like, for Easter and different things, like, she gets us the Cadbury Flake.
Look.
That shit is so good.
It's so good.
I get so mad at her for only getting me one.
I mean...
Does she not know by now?
There is a British store here.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's much better when other people buy you chocolates.
That is true. That is true. And another little, like, tidbit about his World War II history, by the way, is he qualified as a flying ace, which is pretty awesome. So, then, in 1983... he got the World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement, which is incredible. In 1990, the British Book Awards Children's Author of the Year. And then he was 16th on the Times 50 Greatest British Writers since 1945. That was in 2008. So he's a very accomplished man. And he was an amazing writer. And
yeah.
I think it's fantastic that we have this day to celebrate him. Although I'm not sure what year we started celebrating this. I don't remember celebrating this day when we were in elementary school.
No. We died in 1990, right?
We died in 90, right? So we
were still little.
we were 1.
I was older than 1.
Yeah, at the end. Yeah, I guess when he died, you were 2. You had turned 2. But
I had a big kid.
So we're going to tell you a little bit about our favorite books. Angel, why don't you go first?
Yeah, you've been talking a lot.
Look.
So I just noticed this in the very beginning of the books, all of them. It says, "Quick, mischief makers, sign here," so everyone knows this book belongs to you. That's really cute.
That's really cute.
And I'm guessing that's normal. I doubt it was just for this collection. So
yeah.
But yeah. So my favorite is James and the Giant Peach. I definitely, total disclosure, have seen the movie before I knew it was a book. However, this is the first chapter book I ever read to Oliver. And it was, we got this set, and I was like, it'd be kind of fun. Of course, I read this to him when he was before he was even walking. So I'll definitely be reading it over, and it'll be worn by the time. But I think one of the reasons, out of the ones that I'm actually familiar with, because I don't know all of these, we haven't gotten that far. He's only 2.5. But, out of the ones that I know and out of the things that I know he's created, I think this one's probably my favorite just because of the fact that Mike and I were talking about this earlier. I really like this theme of kids having this magic inside of them. And what I mean by that is obviously, giant grasshoppers and ladybugs that talk is not like a real thing that we know of. And grasshoppers seem really big sometimes. Anyway, sorry, I almost had PTSD for a second there because they are very traumatizing to me as a human being. But anyway, so, but it's always like these crazy situations that these kids get into, or these remarkable things that happen to them that help them get through like whatever it is. In Matilda, it's an abusive, shitty ass situation. James, it's the same thing. Like those are just a couple examples, but it's like this story is about this little boy who lost everything that he loved. The lights in his life are completely like vanished. They do not exist. And he lives with these horrible fucking aunts that treat him like garbage and beat him, which is, most of that is actually left. There's a little bit more of that in the book than there is in the movie. But yeah, and he goes on this crazy, wacky adventure after some magic gets kind of thrown at him, and he ends up going to the city, New York City, which is where he was supposed to go with his parents, and he ends up there with the bugs, and they live happily ever after, and they tell of all of their adventures, and the kids come from all over to hear these stories. And it's interesting because, it's a little bit different when you read the book versus when you see the movie. But when you see the movie, the kids that live in New York City, I don't know that I'd say they look like they're doing without, but they don't look as happy as they are once they go and see James. Like, it's just like this weird thing of like, he became something so good for them, for the city, that but anyway. So that's one of the reasons it's one of my favorite ones. I also think that the characters are hysterical. The centipede is my spirit animal. Like, he's so grumpy and funny and just, but like, he still cares and loves everybody. Like, he's just one of those kind of characters. But so, one of my favorite quotes from the book is, it actually happens, it's one of the things that's said pretty early on, actually, from where I think. But it says, a little magic can take you a long way. And I think that a lot of people, like, I see things all the time on Facebook that's like, magic isn't real, and if you believe in magic, then you're an idiot, and blah, 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 blah. But magic doesn't have to be something supernatural.
No.
I see magic when I see Oliver stomping around on the floor with his dinosaurs like they're real. Like, that's magic. And kids have so much of that magic in them that we lose as we get older. We become bitter. We have heartbreaks, and we have trauma that impacts who we are and what we become. And I think it's like there's just something about that purity and that innocence in children that's the magic that helps them overcome all of these horrible things around them. Not just abuse, but other things too, which, that kind of goes into some of like the stuff that happens in your book. But it's like, I love James and the Giant Peach. I've always loved the movie. Yes. And then when I read the book, and you get a little bit more into some of the characters than you do in the movie, I think. But it's just like, I just loved it. Like, I was like, I'm so glad this was the first one that I read, because I honestly didn't know all these were written by the same person. So
I had no idea The Witches was a book.
I didn't know it was a book either. That movie scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Such a good movie.
Fun fact, they're redoing it with Anne Hathaway. Anyway, but yeah, so James and the Giant Peach is my favorite. I have loved this story since I was younger. I loved sharing it with Oliver. I'm super pumped to share it with him multiple times as he gets bigger. So yeah, that's my favorite one.
And my favorite one is the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant. If anybody was confused about what BFG means, I was talking to my sister, and my niece, who is 7, loves the BFG. And she and her friend were like the big fucking gun from, like, is it Doom or is it Duke Nukem? I don't remember which one. I think it's Doom. I'm like, the Big Friendly Giant? And they're like, oh, that's not what we thought it stood for.
I always say big fucking giant. But, that's just friendly. Being funny. I know it stands for friendly.
Well, the BFG is a weapon, and I'm pretty sure it's Doom. Mike, is it Doom? Or is it Duke Nukem?
I think it's Duke Nukem.
Doom?
Is it?
I don't know. It's one of those. One of them's going to fact check me while I look into this book. So she's talking about the front page of the book. The other thing that I love from books from my childhood of like these first, because I feel like these are starter.
Doom 2.
Doom 2.
Hell on Earth.
Is, you know, as you become an adult, books don't have illustrations in them anymore. But children's books are all illustrations. Well, these still have illustrations in them as chapter books. They do.
All the way through. Like, this is the middle of my book. Yeah, that's true.
This one introduces you to the characters.
Yeah.
So you can see the characters on the first page and visualize them
as you're
reading the book. How cool is that? Also, the author over here and the illustrator. That's really cool.
Those are pretty close.
They are. Yeah. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
So, the Big Friendly Giant is about, it starts out, if you've seen the movie ends a little differently than the book ends, but, the second movie from 2016. I've never seen the animated one that came out in 1980 something. But it's about this little girl who lives in an orphanage. She doesn't have a family. And one night she can't go to sleep and she sees something out of her window. And when she looks out of the window, it's the Big Friendly Giant. And he's in, like, London, walking through the streets. Well, he takes her, which I'm sure is terrifying as a child. But he's not going to eat her because he's the friendly giant. The BFG goes around and gives dreams to people, to children, so that nightmares can't get to them. He gives them good dreams, which, how amazing is that, for one? But he takes her, and because he can't, nobody else can know that he exists. He does this when everybody's asleep, this is actually a good one. Human beings is not really believing in giants, is they? Human beings is not thinking we exist. That's on the back of the book. I just noticed that.
Yeah, he calls them beans instead of beings.
Beings. He is not the most literate, but that's okay. So yeah, he goes through this, and she goes and she lives with him, and the other giants are not friendly. The other giants definitely eat people. They're mean to him because he's the smallest of them, and he has to hide Sophie from the other giants so they don't kill her. And if you've seen the movie from 2016, it's so beautiful where he takes her to live, and that's where all of the dreams are. They're in these like jars and things hanging in this like big tree area underneath his house, and it's beautiful.
You said it was like fireflies.
It does. It looks like fireflies and all these different colors, and it's amazing. And he vanquishes bad dreams too, by the way, so that bad dreams don't get into people's heads, so that they are only having good dreams. And there's so much in the story, but in the end, he in the book, the bad giants, they go to see the Queen. Sophie takes them to go to see the Queen of England, so that they can do something about the bad giants. And they end up being able to capture them. And in the book, they're dropped into this big pit of despair, I guess. But they're put into this big pit, so they can't get out, and they can't cause any more chaos or harm to anybody. In the movie, they pick them up and they put them on an island that's covered with all of these vegetables. I don't remember what they're called, but the other giants hate these vegetables, and that's all that's there for them to eat, and it's hilarious.
Because they're shitheads.
Because they're horrible. They're horrible, horrible giants. And so they get rid of the bad giants, and that way the BFG can continue to do what he's doing, to give dreams to people. And in the movie, Sophie gets adopted by one of the assistants to the Queen, and she gets to live in the castle and have this amazing life. So one of the things about communicating and seeing the BFG is, is you're asleep. You're not supposed to know that he exists, but Sophie still knows that he exists. So they didn't really because I guess he can take memories away from people. of like knowing that they exist or when they get older or something, but she whispers to him every morning, like she says hello or something like that, and he's able to hear her in his home where he lives. In the book, they build him a castle, and she lives in this cottage next door to him, and they remain good friends. So it's interesting, like, the differences between books and movies, too, though. Like, that's a different ending. The other thing in the book is that, here's an illustration of them putting the giants, the mean giants, into the pit. Snoz cucumbers, that's what they're called. Snoz cucumbers.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Taste like snozberries. So the BFG becomes an author. She teaches him to become, like, how to write and how to speak proper, and he becomes an author and writes these amazing books, and he goes by the pen name of Roald Dahl, which is really sweet.
Yeah, that's cute.
Because this book is dedicated to Roald Dahl's daughter, Olivia, who died of measles when she was 7. So, it's a really good story. And my quote from it, I'm going to read from my phone here.
Dreams is.
Yep. Dreams is full of mystery and magic. Do not try to understand them. Which is true. Like, so many dreams that we have, it's like, what the hell? What was that about? Like, why did that even come to mind? But they're magic, and why do we need to try to understand them? Like, that's one of the pieces of magic that we can keep with us as we get older, as adults. There's still, some type of magic and, like, fantasy in our lives still, like in our dreams. It's a really good book.
It's kind of like this underlying theme that magic is also practical things.
Yeah.
That it's also very real things. It's not just worms that turn a peach into this giant ass thing and make the bugs talk.
Or giants.
Yeah.
Giants that...
Or a girl who can move things with her mind.
Yeah.
Or a kid who inherits a chocolate factory. Like, the magic is...
Or in The Witches, where you have these... this boarding school that's run by these, like, terrible witches.
Horrible.
People.
The Witches was one of the ones that I started, but I'm going to be honest, it was kind of slow, so I actually kind of lost interest in it when I was trying to read it to Oliver.
Right.
But I love the story. I'm familiar with the story, and I loved the old movie, but I just, I didn't know, this is a lot. Like, I didn't even know it was this many.
Yeah, I
forgot.
I don't know all of them. I did read Danny, the Champion of the World, is actually the precursor to the BFG, but I've not read this story at all.
Yeah.
A stodgy parent is no fun at all. What a child wants and deserves is a parent who is sparky. That's interesting. They all have quotes on the back of them, I guess.
Yeah, they do.
Let's see what Matilda's is. We saw Miss Trunchbull grab a girl by the pigtails and throw her over the playground fence. With an illustration.
God, they got that right in the movie. Damn, she looks just like her.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
It is, yeah. I love that they put the characters in the front of these. But anyways, so a few ways that you can celebrate Roald Dahl Day, which if you didn't know that's how you say his name, we learned that tonight.
It was Roald Dahl, as far as I was concerned.
Growing up, it was Roald Dahl. It is not. It is Roald Dahl. So, how to celebrate. Read or reread some of his more popular works. Mm-hmm. If you have children, participate in mischief and mayhem events, which they're probably not going to be organized by your local library or bookstore this year, unfortunately. Yeah. But hopefully that's something we can look forward to doing next year. If there's none locally, you may be able to organize one yourself or participate in a virtual event. I wonder if they're going to hold any virtual events. That'd be interesting to look into. Watch movies based on his books and have a Roald Dahl themed party where guests dress up like the characters from his books. That would be fun.
I'd be the centipede. I wouldn't have to do much.
I don't like centipedes. I'd be one of the witches. Not gonna be Matilda. It's PTSD. But I'd definitely be one of the witches. But anyways, so Roald Dahl Day. We hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Try to find these books, man. Even if you can't find the collection.
Even if you don't care enough to read them to your kids, read them for yourself. They're really good stories.
They are really good stories. They are. Definitely brings back some...
That's the terrible aunts looking at him getting away. Aunts, whatever. I live in Georgia, it's aunts.
I have both.
They gaped, they screamed, they started to run. Oh, that's right. They get ran over by the peach. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Bitches.
A little bit. I mean, but they were.
They're horrible.
Yeah. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, comment down below. What is your favorite Roald Dahl story or movie? Let us know. Do you have a favorite quote from him?
A character?
A character? Let us know. We would love to know. You know, what you think is special about this amazing author and his works of art. And make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Momestly. And I guess we'll see you next time. Bye, Moms.